How's it going? Good.
How much, as an assistant, did you cross paths with Dwayne?
A little bit, not a ton, but obviously, he comes from the Coach Izzo tree, and there's some things that you can anticipate seeing from his team, being that he spent so much time with him, and had some recruiting battles and stuff like that, but outside of that, not a lot.
But I wondered, did you go against him on the recruiting trail much?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit, but I think a lot of times, you felt like when you were recruiting against Michigan State, it was it wasn't just one guy necessarily you were recruiting against.
Now, as far as your team goes, looking at some of the numbers through these first 4 games and the big picture of what you want your offense to be, how important is getting to the line for this team's chance for success? Because you guys have done that at a pretty high rate to this point.
Well, I think having a 5-man that can dribble and attack with shooting around him puts the defense in a bind, right? And so, we talk a lot about playing through the paint. We want to shoot more threes than we shot last year, but a lot of those need to come off of paint touches first. Not all of them, certainly, but a lot of them. And so I think the spacing we have on the floor, allows us to attack the paint off the dribble better than maybe last year when we, had 1 or 2 guys on the court who couldn't shoot. So that's, putting us in the way we can shoot, I think is putting us in opportunistic, reads for closeouts. And so that's part of why I think we're getting to the line.
Is that all correlated with your 2-point percentage shooting as well? Because you're, I think, top 10 in the nation in that as well. Do the two go together?
I think they're related, certainly. We talk a lot about, shot quality, and when you get inside the 3-point line and touch the paint, we want to certainly be aggressive to get to the rim to score. And we got some guys who, we trust, scoring at that in-between level. We certainly don't want a high volume of our shots as a team coming from that in-between level, but I think our shot selection has helped our 2-point field goal percentage, and also getting to the line, has probably played a role in that as well.
Coach, so these next few games, with games like Northwestern, Illinois, UNC coming up, what are you really looking for from your team, whether it's chemistry-wise, numbers-wise, that sort of thing?
I think the big thing for us right now is to play well on both sides of the ball in the same game. That's what we're striving to do. We want to, the last 2 opponents really, it felt like it was a point of emphasis for them to limit possessions. And, we want to pick up the pace. So we can't allow the other team to dictate that at the level the last 2 opponents have. That's for us offensively. I think our defense continues to get better. Our defensive connection continues to get better. We executed a good part of our game plan against Notre Dame defensively well, and that was to limit their number of 3-point attempts, specifically with some of their personnel. So, with that, we got a little too hugged up and opened up the paint there, especially in the first half. Thought we made some good adjustments in the second half. So, our defense has to continue to grow, but for us, it's about connection on both sides of the ball. And, we need to put complete games together. I mean, that's the big thing. It's going to take that, tomorrow night. So it's not necessarily for games in the future. It's for us right now. And that's going to be an important part for us as we continue to grow as a team.
Speaking of growing, do you feel like Kristoff has a much higher ceiling than what we've seen, and he's sort of just getting started at this point?
Well, I think we've seen him be really productive, and he hasn't shot the ball from 3 nearly as well as he's capable of. So that certainly opens up, another dimension to his game and our offense. But as he continues to, I think, get comfortable, again, I think there's a period of transition come game time for guys who are in a program for the first time. And so I thought he's handled it really well, but his versatility has in the way he's been able to display that has been great for him and us. And I think there's still a lot more there to continue to build on.
The struggle, I think, a little bit for Brandon Knoll in the last game. I think he played 20 minutes and didn't score and didn't have very many rebounds. Just what did you see as you kind of went back? And I guess effort was there, I assume. Just what was going on with him, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think with Brandon it's an effort thing. I think at times, he's got to continue to strive to be more physical. I think when we've seen him play with great physicality, he's been really productive. But what we saw on film, and it wasn't just him, this was an issue with our offense, was we got caught with bad spacing. We didn't stick to our principles well enough. We didn't cut at the level, that when we're playing with pace in the half court and we're playing with pace in the game, we have a lot of cutting. And I thought there were times he cut when he shouldn't have cut and then missed some cutting opportunities. So cutting's a great part of his game. It's really good for us as well. That also puts him in position to rebound, at times. So he's got to be aggressive for us, Steve. And he's, I think, again, talking about a guy who's, being asked to play just significantly different than what he's been used to the last few years. He's done it really well at times. Did it well in our 2 exhibitions. Did it well the game before Notre Dame. So he's shown he can do it. We just got to keep fighting for that consistency.
And the flip of that is Bynum. You guys trusted him to be out there with the game on the line, and he had a rebound and went baseline and had a basket there in the last 6 or 8 minutes. Just your thought, about what that experience does for him and what he kind of gave you in that game, I suppose.
Yeah, we have a ton of belief in Amari, and I think the great thing he provides is he provides energy and he provides physicality. He always plays hard, but you're seeing his basketball IQ with his ability to maybe get an extra possession here or create an advantage on the offensive side the next time down, and then on defense he's a gifted rebounder. And he provides some great size, and he provides a little bit of rim protection for us, which, we got to continue to get better at. So when he's, playing with that physicality and energy, it's quite honestly, it's hard to keep him off the floor. And, really there's been times where he's had it where maybe he's been limited by fouls or he's been limited, by fatigue. But I thought he had great pop, in the game. And it was, listen, I think when we flipped that and got the lead there late in the second half, I think just leading up into that, his energy and stuff was really important.
It says here Bruce played 40 minutes. This is the first I saw that.
I know we took him out of the game briefly, but
it rounded up to 40.
Rounded up to that.
Cups played 15 minutes. Just what do you envision his role in ways that he can contribute for you right now? And I mean, obviously he's not going to be in there doesn't feel like a whole lot with Bruce if Bruce is playing that many number of minutes, but just what you're getting out of Cups and what you're hoping to see from him.
Well, I think we trust Gabe, and I think Gabe's got to be aggressive offensively. He's got to continue to be a good decision maker for us, and then defensively he's guarded the ball well. He's provided some presence on the ball that's been disruptive at times. So we're looking for consistency there. We're certainly not. This isn't an equation where we can't play, he and Bruce together. I think, for us, we have to continue to develop our bench more, and it's something that, we're really looking into here heading into tomorrow night is to give some of those guys a bigger opportunity earlier in the game, and so. We've tried to utilize media timeouts to extend Bruce's rest. So if there's a dead ball, within a minute of a media timeout coming up, we've subbed him out in those situations, and that 30 seconds becomes 3+ minutes of rest time. And the other thing is, I think Bruce, certainly being mindful of everything, but a lot of it is game to game and he and I's communication and how he's feeling. If he feels, and I trust him, if he feels like he needs to come out, he tells me. If we feel like we need to get him a blow, we do. But I think the biggest thing for us is we gotta continue to develop our depth because we lack some experience. I think it's great pieces. I think they're really important pieces, and I think there's a ton of potential on our bench right now, and we got to continue to develop it. So that's the biggest thing we're looking at from a lineup standpoint is how can we give some guys a little bit more opportunity to because we're going to need them throughout the year certainly.
Turning to Western Michigan, you mentioned after the Purdue-Fort Wayne game that you thought they were a great rebounding team. And those two actually matched up earlier in the season, and I think Western Michigan out-rebounded them by 14. What does that say about Western Michigan, and what are you looking for from your guys from a physicality standpoint?
Yeah, we talk a lot about the game within the game, and one of them is going to be the rebounding battle. And they, do a really good job of crashing the glass. They got some athleticism on the wing that is relentless and going. They're big guys inside, have high motors. So it's going to be important. It's going to be really important that kind of game within the game. And we've talked about that. We've watched film on that already. So we got to continue to have a good practice today in preparation for that.
I'm curious. You talk about trusting Bruce and really listening to everything he has to say. Every year you have new faces, different guys coming in. Do you feel like this season you've maybe given him more of the reins this year to be that leader on and off the court with the new guys coming in, the transfers, younger faces, things like that?
Yeah, I think, Bruce has evolved as a leader too. And, part of going through everything we went through last year, you through that experience, you become better. And part of it is leadership for him. And I think his leadership has been phenomenal, dating back to the first week of June, when we started up. So thought he was really, really good in timeouts of the Notre Dame game. I think he's really comfortable as a leader, probably the most comfortable he's been. I think we have a great group who looks to him, at times for leadership, and he's provided in those settings. So he's, from where he was as a freshman to where he is now, he's become a much better. He's really become a great leader, and wasn't that as a freshman, and wasn't that he was doing anything wrong, but I think just over time and through experience, he's become a great leader.
You talked about in the Notre Dame game, you said you guys didn't maybe cut at the level you needed to cut at. What goes into that? Like, what did you see when you looked at that on the film?
Yeah, I thought we hesitated at times. We didn't read coverages as well as we needed to, Adam. I think some of it was fatigue. I think there were some moments in there where maybe we could give guys a little bit of a breather, to recover and go in, because what we're asking our guys to do it requires great effort offensively, because we want to play certainly with great pace when we're changing ends, but we want to play with great pace in the half court too. The other thing I thought was we allowed their ball screen coverage to stun the ball, too much. We didn't attack their ball screen coverage as well as we should have. Thought we got better with it in the second half, but we didn't quite execute at the level I felt like we should have in the first half, and that caused us to get a little stagnant. We hesitated a little bit off the ball. So we watched those things on film. We've worked on them. We worked on them heading into that game. We've worked on them since that, because I think we'll continue to see some coverages like that, here in the near future.
Is any of that, do you attribute any of that to, no disrespect to the first several teams you played, but this was your first high major opponent? Did the level of increased competition have any bearing on that, do you think?
I think it's natural in a game like that, which it was a huge game for both of us, right, early on in the season. There's, I think it's natural for players to feel that a little bit. But a lot of it, and I think you got to give them credit, their scheme, they executed their scheme better than we executed our attack against their scheme. And maybe some of that had to do with the athleticism and the size that was on the court, certainly. But I felt like, there were controllables for us that we just didn't do our job well enough. And I think that's part of, early season basketball. When you see different coverages from game to game, it's an adjustment. Got a new team that's, figuring some things out. But I also think we still had a high assist rate, so we figured it out together. That's important. It didn't become, one-on-one and just, over dribbling. And we over dribble a little bit at times, but it wasn't, it didn't feel like people were out there trying to do it by themselves. We just didn't and not because of selfishness. We just didn't we weren't connected enough offensively and executed at a high enough level against what we were seeing.
Correctable in that situation.
Yeah, so to give you an example, against their hedge coverage against our ball screens, we talked about, you know, having our bigs kind of short roll and roll with the window that existed for the guard to make a pass, right? And so a lot of times we maybe rolled past that window, and our guard now, instead of maybe having a pocket pass to throw to him, was trying to throw over somebody, and they got a couple deflections and stuff. So and then we also, you know, we didn't lift high enough or early enough in some of our, you know, off-ball parts where, you know, when that ball screen happened, to where we had a quick outlet and then we could attack, you know, from there. So little things like that, you know, where you work on them and you talk about, but obviously we don't see that type of defense every day. We've worked against it this summer but when we're going good on good, we're working on us a lot of times. So we just don't see it a lot. Felt like we practiced it, you know, and practiced against it well and tried to simulate it for the few days leading into the game. But we just didn't execute quite at the level we need to. And again, I think you got to give him credit. I mean, big fella for them's got a great motor. He could cover a lot of ground quickly. And, you know, he was disruptive in some of that ball screen coverage, and it took us out of things a little bit, especially in the first half.
Sorry, how did Devin come out of the game, and what did you think of what he was able to give you despite dealing with, you know, the injury?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's feeling good. He's continuing to, you know, progress, and obviously he played a significant amount of minutes, so that was encouraging. And back at practice, so, you know, I think we're, you know, kind of full speed ahead with him, and he's worked really hard and spent a lot of extra time to, you know, put himself into position to play last game and be where he's at today.
Big Ten is 67-4 through the first couple of weeks, and 6 ranked teams. You guys are like just outside the top 25. Just your thought, if you've had a chance to kind of look around and see what's out there, probably a little bit more with Western and Illinois, with them coming a little closer. But just what your early blush on how good this could be, I guess.
You know, I said this back in the fall. I think this is the best the Big Ten has ever been. And when you look at top to bottom, I'm not surprised. That's the record of the league, Steve, to be honest with you. I think, you know, this basketball conference is special. There is a ton of talent in the league, and every single game is going to be a battle. And I think this is a year for us that should rival, you know, close to what the SEC did last year. I think it's that deep. I think we have elite teams, you know, going into the college basketball season. Perception-wise, we had elite teams. I don't think people realized how deep our conference was. And now that they're starting to see that, and you combine that with, you know, those teams that many already perceived as being elite, you know, that's what you saw last year with the SEC, the amount of teams they got in the tournament, the success that they had in the non-conference, and, you know, we're off to a great start. But I'm not surprised. I mean, I think the way teams recruited, just the experience, the talent, we have all the pieces to be the best league in the country this year.